In my conversations with veterans, it has become increasingly clear that the VA has failed them in so many ways. And yet, at the same time, in speaking with them, it becomes even more clear that we need to save the VA. Right now, it is under tremendous attack, and the real goal of this is to privatize it, to privatize veterans' health care. So here is why I think that despite the VA's failures, that we need to fix it, improve it, and save it. Welcome to Red, Blue, and Screwed, a Philosophy All Along podcast. I'm a professional philosopher, and I like to use the tools of philosophy to help me understand things on a deeper level. Okay, so firstly, yes, we know that the VA has over and over and over again failed vets. In some ways, it has certainly improved over the last 4 or 5 years, where we have greater access for veterans to healthcare. But we all have heard story after story after story of veterans who were trying to pursue care through the VA and couldn't get it, or have been incredibly long wait lists, or were mistreated by the VA, that they were treated as if whatever their experience wasn't real, that they were making something up. This is a huge problem, and one that immediately needs to be addressed. We know this. Now, why is it happening? So in speaking with one veteran recently, he was pointing out something that I hadn't realized because I haven't been through the experience. And it is that he personally had very little problems with the VA, that when he went to get the assistance that he needed, that it was provided to him without a whole lot of long lines and so on and so forth. And so when I asked him about it, he said because during his service, that when he was having various struggles, whether they were mental struggles or PTSD, depression, issues associated with his experience there, that he reported it at the time while still in the service, while still serving. And that many, though, of the people with whom he serves, they did not. For obvious reason, for fear that they would be discharged or humiliated or not allowed to participate in what they've given their lives and their dedication and their hearts for, which is to serve their country. So because he already had the paperwork and the paper trail showing that he was having these experiences, it was much faster because they believed him. But his colleagues, the people that he served with, that when they then, after they had finalized their service, that they would say, okay, I had this injury, I'm having this pain, I'm having this struggle, I'm having this suffering. The VA would say, well, I show no history of this. There's no evidence of it in the past. This is tremendously problematic. This is part of why the VA has been a problem and not providing the services it needs. But this does not mean that we should be privatizing the VA, which is the real goal. I want you all really to think about, we should all really think about, do you trust companies enough? Do you really believe in this idea that companies can be trusted, that corporations and the wealthy can be trusted with giving veterans the best possible care for free? Which, let's be honest, it really should be. After you go through that kind of service, you really shouldn't have to pay the kinds of outrageous rates for insurance that people have to. But even if it was just discounted, do you really think that companies have the best interest of veterans in mind? Think about the company that you work for. Maybe some of you are lucky enough to work for companies that you see take truly ethical action, where they're willing to put customers and employees before the bottom line. But I've worked for virtually none. And from what I can tell, over and over and over again, we see companies willing to, if they can, bury toxic waste behind elementary schools if they think it's going to save them just a little bit of money. What makes us think that this privatization would work? Now, you might be saying, well, it's got to be better than what we have. No, because what we have is partly struggling because of our unwillingness to fund it and our unwillingness to be honest about what the problems are. Look, these kinds of issues are an issue of not just a problem of like, oh, you have these corrupt people who aren't doing the right thing. My grandmother is going through a similar issue of being able to get the assistance that she's supposed to have. There's a program that helps provide assistance to the elderly, but you have to do all this paperwork first. And part of the reason why they make you go through paperwork after paperwork and they make you go to doctor visit after doctor visit is to make sure that you're not taking advantage of the system. Our raging paranoia that people are willing to take advantage of tax dollars, that at any given moment that the selfish people are going to just use that money and steal it from us makes it so part of the reason why things like the VA are so unwilling to give that money out easily, why they need this long paper trail to show that, yes, you actually did have that injury and it was reported at this time, because they're trying to protect your tax dollars. So that fear that these tax dollars might be misused is part of why it takes forever. My grandmother's been on these waiting lists for like 2 years now, despite being incredibly elderly and incredibly disabled. And literally everyone's trying to help her, but it's just a matter of, okay, but now she needs to go to this doctor. And now she needs to fill out this next paperwork. And now we need to make sure that her income's under this, all to protect your tax dollars, which is great. But that's part of why the system moves as slowly as it does. But I still would rather that system than trusting it to the medical providers and the healthcare industry that I've seen literally do things like deny healthcare to my grandfather because he was dying of cancer and couldn't get the medication approved by the insurance company soon enough because they wanted to save a few dollars. We have to be really honest about the fact that privatization is not the answer because corporations cannot be trusted, and we're a country that seems to believe that regulating them is unfair to them as opposed to not regulating them being unfair to us. This is a profoundly serious issue. And we need to look at the fact, too, that it has a lot to do with toxicity. And what I mean by that is making it unsafe for veterans and military personnel who are currently serving to say that they're having a struggle. That the fact that they have to worry that if they're having a depressed day, that if they say something about it, that they could be kicked out of the service is profoundly unfair to them. That they have to be willing to pretend that they don't have injuries and they have to be willing to pretend that they don't have pain, all in the name of some sort of masculine ideal for the military that people like Pete Hegseth, who's in charge of the military, love. Well, this is why when we talk about the homeless as poorly as we do, that they're a bunch of lazy people and they don't deserve our help, well, 30% of them are our veterans. We have a huge disjunction in our country between the idea of, yes, we respect our service personnel, and on the other hand, saying, well, but don't be a sad sack and get out there, Nancy, and fight. This, we know, if you have served, if you're a veteran, that there is this horrible tendency for us, the people who benefit from your work and your sacrifice, just to treat you like meat for the grind. And that as soon as you're done, we promised you accolades and honor and respect, but you come back and we just expect you to work more, despite the tragedy and terrors and sacrifice of your experience. This has to stop, and we have to be honest about it. And I, for one, think that there's absolutely no evidence to suggest that what the solution is to give it to the hands of companies. It is not a solution where we should be attacking veterans and the VA and firing veterans from the VA. The solution is being honest about the sacrifice of our veterans, being willing to spend more to support them. And yes, making sure to check to make sure the money goes in the right places and to make sure that we are in fact doing the right things with that money. But to remember that people's well-being, especially those who are willing to sacrifice their lives for us, always comes before money. And as long as we're more worried about our money than we are worried about being good people, we're never going to give our children, our elderly, or our veterans the service and respect and honor that they deserve. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. If you liked it, please please hit the bell to get notifications. Please do comment if you agree and comment if you disagree. If I miss something, by all means, say something. Please catch me on your favorite podcast hosts. Catch me here on YouTube at Philosophy All Along. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.